Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And yeah, my name is Sandra, and like I said, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, today we have a really good stream. I'm super excited. And I remembered to unmute my mic. I'm always forgetting to like unmute myself. And y'all happen to tell me in the chat that I'm just talking and nobody can hear. But today I unmuted before the intro was done so that I knew for a fact that y'all was going to be able to hear me once I got on. As you see, I have an actual background now. You know, Amazon came through late, but they came through and I was able to kind of set things up, make it look real pretty. Definitely different from my other setup back in Illinois, which is more gamer, you know, a little bit more edgy. This one is my soft, feminine side. But thank y'all so much for coming in. Let me say hello to the people. What's up, TR baby? What's up, Rizza? So Justin, he right over there. What's up, Endure? Let's see. What's up, Eugene? And what's up, GC? Oh, you thought it was a premiere? No, we live streaming. It's a whole live stream. But yeah, today we're gonna get into a very interesting topic. At least it's been very interesting learning about all this crazy shit for me. And actually a very serious topic because some of the things that these women are saying is absolutely disgusting and absolutely just horrific and demonic and just all the bad words that you could come up with that's encapsulating this type of movement. But luckily, I don't have to break this conversation down all by my lonesome. All right. I have a very special guest, and most of y'all probably already know who sis is. But I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Shay Sade up. She has been so gracious to bless our streams. But hey, sis, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Doing our little struggle stream, but we making it
Right,
happen.
make it work.
But before we get into the show, just let the people know like a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Shay Sade here on the Femininity channel. My channel, we like to tackle tough topics with truth. So we touch on a lot of different stuff. Femininity, obviously, relationships, race, spirituality, trending topics, all of it. So it's a little bit of a mix, but my focus really is women, their experience, and essentially trying to address issues that could be common, hindrances to them actually achieving success. So yeah, that's what we do.
Nice. I love it. And one of the things I really like about your channel is you come through with the facts, okay? You don't just come through with opinions, you bring information, data, and I love that about your channel. Absolutely love that about your channel.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, sure.
Today, we're actually going to be talking about this whole divestment movement. It was very new to me. I think sometime last year was when I first heard of this entire movement. But what would you say divesting even is? Like, what is that movement in the first place?
Well, what it alleges to be is a movement where women, Black women, are empowered to make better decisions. That's what they allege. What it is, I think, in practice, is just a hate group of Black women who get together and just talk about different ways that they hate Black men, and in some instances, wish for their demise and destruction. So there's what it alleges to be and what it actually is.
That's true. Usually with hate groups, they always have the face of it that seems more positive, but then when you really peel back the layers,
Yeah.
and I mean with this one, it's pretty service. I remember you showed a picture of one of these ladies. Their avatar was literally a Black man being hung.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, at that point, it's not up for discussion. You see a leader in your movement who their avatar is literally a hate crime. How are we even having this discussion? It's pretty obvious. So yeah.
It is pretty obvious. And I remember one of my first times really hearing about this community, I had stumbled upon a stream actually, and I was literally horrified. I did a video on it, I screen grabbed it, and the things that this woman was saying was it really took a toll on me because when you're doing a video you have to edit, and I had to constantly hear those negative words and those negative like ill wishes over and over, and it took a lot trying to even edit that video. And what was very surprising to me was that a lot of the terminology is alt-right. It's a lot of the same terminology that you hear from the alt-right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was absolutely disgusting. But that was probably like mid last year when I really first started hearing about, I mean, I heard it like the Cynthia G's, but I didn't think that they were so far gone into that kind of like hatred or wishing death. I had thought it was just, bitterness and things like that, but I didn't know it had took such a deep turn until I stumbled upon that live stream. When was one of the first times you heard of like this whole divestment movement?
That's a good question. I would say it was shortly after I started my YouTube channel sometime last year. And I'm trying to think how exactly I stumbled upon it, but I'm trying to think. I don't know if it was my husband who kind of mentioned it to me or different people, but it was somehow I kind of found myself introduced to this content. And I think, there was for sure I knew there were a few followers who would name drop certain people or talk about certain things. And at the time I was kind of back and forth because, I heard the surface level expand your options and Black women should be able to do better too. Like I heard that stuff and I didn't think anything wrong with it. So I was a little bit more neutral, and I actually brought a few divestors on to talk at the time, and I was kind of exploring. And then I had one interaction with a divestor in particular who called in and then started saying things that I thought were quite frankly derogatory and disturbing. She was a divestor. She's tagged me in multiple videos, but we kind of had this interaction. And to me, that was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. And like I said, over time, I would just kind of peer into different divestors, channels here and there, just to try to get a sense of what was going on. So for me, this was very much a ongoing process. And I think what really solidified it for me is that I had an interview with content creator Dennis Sperling a few months ago, where he was flat out just like, divesting is a hate group. He just laid it out there to me. And I was like, I'd never really thought of it like that. And ever since then, I took it upon myself to do a little bit more research. And I started to try to really listen in more consistently on some of these different divestor channels, like listen to the live streams. And it just so happened that there was a follower of mine who had been involved in some of those groups who started sending me information about what they were planning and some of the things that they were saying behind closed doors. And so when I really started to take a point to just sit down and like listen through a live stream, and then I started seeing all the information that was sent to me, it was like just pretty obvious to me about what it was really about. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, it's just it's very scary to think that, you know, I've understood that there are Black people that are off code. Like, I've understood that, but it's crazy to see the depths of how off code some of us have gotten to the point where, you know, we're wishing death on each other. I've even heard some of them say they want all Black men to just disappear from the planet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I was just like, this is not just an opinion. I've had a lot of pushback. You were there on the live I did yesterday, where I was basically going over why divesting is a hate group, and I had all these receipts. And the main pushback I've gotten from some of these divestors, surprise, surprise, was just like, oh, well, the men do it too. And I'm like, no, they don't. First of all, I've yet to find a large content creator that's SYSBM or male that has the profile picture of a Black woman being lynched. I haven't seen that. And also, even if that is the case, who cares? Like, two wrongs don't make a right. Like, you know what I mean? But there was countless upon countless receipts that I had of them being like, I just want these mammies to be deleted. I just want these mules. I mean, they were saying it in a lot more aggressive terms. I'm trying to be, you know, PG, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just it's very interesting. Every single time you try to point out something that's wrong, it's like a deflection to, oh, well, the men are doing this, but right now we're talking about you, honey. Like, we're trying to break through what you're got going on. And to your point, you know, I've kind of perused the manosphere. I find it very interesting. I've been perusing it for about the same amount of time, like about a year. And I've never heard them say that they wanted us to die. Like, I've heard them talk grimy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've heard them say some grimy things that I'm just like, oh, okay, that's how you feel. Like, that's how you feel. But I've never heard them say they wanted us to be lynched or wanted us to die. Or one of the worst ones that I heard is that, you know, delete the babies, like delete the Black babies that are boys. I've never heard them say that to, oh, you need to release your baby girls. Like, I've never, if anything, I've heard them say, you know, if you have a daughter, you need to be very involved. So she don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they don't want to, right.
So it's not
so
the same.
Interesting deflection. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, it's not the same. There's levels to this, and you can't deflect to another group that isn't even on that same kind of like wavelength of wishing death. It's completely different when you start adding that into it. And I remember, you know, when I was watching that live stream, it was very saddening to me that not only were they wishing these things, but then she was also going through like different, you know, police brutality cases where like a Black man was murdered and making light of it and joking about it. I've never heard a Black man get on the internet and joke about Breonna Taylor. Haven't heard it. I haven't heard them use, you know, women that have died due to like police brutality or anything like that. I've never heard in their, you know, talking shit about Black women, never heard them use those cases as humor. You know,
the thing about it is, those, if that was to happen, those channels would be canceled, and they should be. Like, you'd have a women doing petitions trying to take them down, and rightfully so, because that would be disrespectful and disgusting. But I'm like, men can't even get away with that kind of BS. Like I said, if that profile picture that I showed yesterday, if the genders were reversed and it was a woman, God forbid, hanging, you know, from that tree, and that hate crime, and a Black man swinging on the swing or whatever, or just like smiling, like, do you really think that channel would still be up? Like, you don't think there would have been petition upon petition to try to take that thing down? So there is no equivalent, and men don't know they can't even get away with that kind of stuff, even if they wanted to. And there would probably be other men who would check them and be like, Brett, like, stop. We know that you have female issues, but like, you've taken it a little bit too far. It doesn't mean you got to be violent. So that's why I'm like, it's all cap. It's just deflection. Like, it's just deflection.
It's absolutely deflection. And, you know, I want people to understand when, you know, when we're talking about divestors, we're not talking about people that just say they want to date out. Those are two completely different ideologies. Because, you know, me personally, I'm pro-Black through and through. I want us to get together and procreate. But if you're dating out and you're just dating out to date out, I don't I don't care. Like I'm not upset with people wanting to date whoever they want to date. But then this divestment movement adds an extra piece to it that is completely just deplorable in every single way, shape, or form. You know?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've kind of noticed now, I think I saw this on a live stream today. I think it was like Chantel's live stream. It's gotten to the point where, you know how we said there aren't Black men that are saying these things about wanting Black women to die? They're literally creating fake profiles. I saw this thing. They're creating fake profiles and typing the most outlandish things and pretending as if it's Black men saying that they want us to die. And it's
doing that for the longest. Yeah, and then they'll go, because they plot the stuff behind. I actually posted about this a few months ago, and I was like, hey guys, if you see this, this is what's going on. These ladies go on, they'll create, fake profiles and pretend that they're Black men or whatever, and they'll go and just say stupid stuff, and then they'll report it and say, see, that channel is promoting violence. It's nothing new. So it's like kind of the same old tricks, because here's the thing about it. They know their branding sucks. Literally, you know, I have receipts of them talking behind closed doors and being like, crap, like we need to figure out how to try to present in a better way, or how to present more feminine, or how to present softer, because like we don't want to scare people away with this rhetoric. And so they literally are aware that the things that they're doing or the things that they want to do are considered extreme and would be things that would actually scare people away, which is why they're trying to throw these little cutesy terms around it. But it's like at its core, like people who actually really believe in the ideology at its core don't like Black men. They don't really like the Black community, period. And they just wish it wouldn't exist. Like those who are like really, really deep into it. So.
Yeah, it's just, it's absolutely like mind-boggling how, and I know this stems from trauma. I know that a lot of these women, their issues with Black men stem from trauma. And so it's like I try to have like a empathy to them and what they've probably been through. But at the same time, it's like, at what point do you look inward and heal? You know? At what point?
Well, the issue that I have with the way that they deal with it is, first of all, everybody has trauma, right? And to assume as if only Black women are the ones that who have experienced domestic violence or rape, God forbid, or just different issues related with their family, been left by their, husbands, or been left by their baby, whatever it may be, to assume that only happens to women, and Black women in particular, it's just completely false. All you have to do is just talk to another person of another nationality, and you'll find out easily that they have their own junk. I mean, some of the trashiest, pookiest stories that I know to date are from some of my white friends who have told me different situations and scenarios that they have going on in their life. But the difference is that I may talk to a white woman who says, yeah, my dad did this to me, or my cousin did this to me, or God forbid, I was taken advantage of, or fill in the blank. But they don't walk away and now say, well, all white men are trash, or everybody in my family, everybody looks like this is horrible. They don't say that. They recognize my family is horrible, or my family has a lot of trauma, a lot of issues. I'm going to go deal with it. And they may still go on to date or marry somebody else within their own ethnic group. And so they can make a clear distinction of, while this happened here from people who look like me, I can still appreciate who I am, or I can still appreciate my culture, or not completely, demean my culture while getting healing. Am I making any sense? So I think a lot of these women already had self-hatred, was already there to a certain extent. And then now you combine that with those situations, and it gives them a reason to double down on that. Because people who don't have self-hatred will go through those experiences, but they'll come to different conclusions. They'll maybe go through their healing, but they won't go and write off an entire ethnic group or an entire culture, unlike the divestors. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And it's like, you know, I have a very interesting perspective on this because, you know, when I was younger, a lot of times, you know, I saw that same like propaganda that was very anti-black, that painted us as just, you know, hood rats and just that we were the lowest of the low and we were doing all the crimes. I saw all of those things. And when I was younger, before I really had time to like process and understand what the propaganda actually was, you know, I started trying to distance myself from black culture. I stopped listening to our music. I stopped doing all these different things, started venturing into, you know, listening to like more like I want to say Caucasian music because you know we were invented rock and roll. But like I started venturing off into like these different things. And it was a sense of just not wanting to accept myself, you know? It was a sense of that. And during that time, I was open to dating out. But it's just like once I dealt with those issues that I had and understood what was happening around me, then that whole desire to even venture out completely went away. And it was like I doubled down on my blackness. I doubled down on wanting better for us because I understood exactly what happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I understood that a lot of this is propaganda and a lot of this was created and we just continue to buy into it, and that's part of the problem. And that's why I think a lot of our sisters are having that self-hate because we're constantly seeing these negative reinforcements of what they want to paint us as versus really seeing us for who we are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, and not
And,
seeing black men for who they really are. Because
mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be the woman I am today if it weren't for all the wonderful black men that have been in my life. You
Yeah.
know, from my father to my uncles to my man. Like,
Right.
I've had so much protection from black men. And so it's very sad to see that there are sisters out there that either haven't had that protection and so they kind of project their feelings onto all black men, or you know some women that have gone through some traumas and they paint all black men with that brush, even though you and I both know that's not at all black men.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and it's interesting because this is why I'm starting to understand why, you know, you have certain cultures where they have their own schools. You know, they may have their kids go into public schools, but they still make sure they take them to their own school. They're gonna learn about their history and they're gonna understand about historical events from their vantage point. And I'm understanding that so much more why it is important for little kids, little black girls and boys to have that cultural understanding and to recognize like, hey, we weren't just slaves. Because a lot of us are told like that's it, all was just slavery. And it never goes beyond that. And it never goes beyond all of the different advancements and just all the rich history of who we really are. And I think that in and of itself, it really can create an inferiority complex because if in your mind everything great related to civilization is white, or everything great is that, and everything bad or demented or everything impoverished, whatever, is black or brown, then like of course you're going to not look at yourself in the mirror and see anything good about yourself. So that's why I think it's really important that there be you have your own understanding of history and understand, you know, the good and also the bad. No culture is just 100% perfect and did everything right all the time. And unfortunately, that's how it's been portrayed to us. Like this culture did everything right. They culture did all civilization, and it's not even remotely true. So you got people confused. So
Yeah, extremely confused, you know, and that breeds that self-hate. It breeds that self-hate. And that's
yeah,
why, you know, we're so susceptible to people that want to exploit that pain, exploit that trauma. Because I do believe that the root of this divestment movement is purely exploitation. It's not to, you know, really liberate black women or tell black women that we can do better or anything like that. It's to exploit us and and take our money, take our money and our time and our
right.
energy. It's exploitation.
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely what it is. And you know, to be fair, now a few of the content creators have been doxxed and have been confirmed as definitely African American women. Some of them are from the diaspora. Some of them, just Black women. But there's also accounts out there who are legitimately they're just white folks in disguise or other people in disguise who are trying to sow discord. So you do have a little bit of that, and sometimes it can be hard to tell. Like, okay, is this a real person? Is this not a real person? But I think pretty much the leading content creators, you can just listen to their voice and know, oh, that's a Black woman. You can just listen to them and know
and
that is not
sadder though, that we're exploiting ourselves. That's what makes it even sadder. Like that other Black women would look at a Black woman in trauma and exploit that trauma to their own benefit, not really tell them the truth or tell them how to grow or anything of that nature, but rather feed into those negative stereotypes, those negative feelings that they're having, and offer them nothing but hate, offer them nothing but just negativity. And, I don't know how you feel about spirituality and things like that, but I do believe that you attract the energy you put out there. And so you have these group of women and their whole entire shit is just negativity, death, destruction. And even if you're wishing destruction on somebody else, I forget, there was a quote that where it's like, when you're wishing bad on somebody else, you're basically drinking your own poison, because it's like that negative energy that you're trying to push out to somebody else. You're going to find that your entire situation is just toxic. You're the one who's getting the negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, even, when I talk about this group, and I go a lot because I think what's happening is very detrimental and very destructive. But it's not like I'm looking at these women and it's like, oh, I hate you, I wish you were gone or exterminated. Like, I mean, they essentially would, me and you and Black men. It's like, no, you're unwell, and please get well. And in the meantime, stop pushing all this rhetoric. But I'm like, there's no way that you can be filled with so much hatred and confess to be happy and leveled up. Like, that, it doesn't make any sense. Like, because if you're really actually truly living your life, then you're consumed with that. You know what I mean? You're making good memories with your non-Black husband or your white man or whatever. Like, that would be your focus. And again, that's why I know a lot of this stuff is capped, because the focus about the divestors is rarely how to actually get along with the men that they allege to want to be with. They never talk about that. They never talk about how to land those men. They never talk about the different ways they can be marriageable, the different ways they can be more marketable to other communities, how to even integrate into other communities or do the cross-cultural thing. They never talk about that. They always somehow end up talking about Black men, although they allege to be divested from them. So that's why it's like, it's just, the whole thing is just insane.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, well, if you don't like them so much, why is your whole channel about them? When I don't like something, I distance. When I don't like something, I get as far away from whatever it is I don't like as much as possible. But it's like, this group is obsessed. They're absolutely obsessed. And it's very sad to see. And I agree with you. I don't want anything bad to happen to these women. I want them to get better. I want them to heal. I want them to learn that, your trauma can be overcome, and you don't have to be so consumed with hatred, because that has to be heavy on the soul. I can't imagine walking around with that much hatred in my soul.
It's so interesting because I've obviously had some pushback, everything from, you're just a mammy, which that's mostly what I get, is the whole mammy mule thing. And then the one is just like, oh, well, you shouldn't be talking about other people. You should just focus on your own content and just let them say what they want to say. And I'm like, the thing about it is, one, I'm never one to ever try to like tear somebody down personally. That's just not me. It's like, I try to always honor people, even if I don't agree with them. So I'm never going to be like, oh, this person, she's a monkey, ape, yeah, you know what I mean? That's not what I'm going to do. But it's like, when we're looking at somebody who is sharing their opinion, it's okay as long as their opinion isn't now trying to lead to the harm or violence against another people group. As soon as that happens, then you have to talk about it. And also, by the way, it's so funny how I've seen some of these, pushback that I've gotten so quick to be like, oh, quiet, why are you talking about us? Why are you talking about us? but then we'll be so quick to have something to say about a male content creator. We'll be so quick to throw Kevin Samuels under the bus, for example. All these women had everything to say about Kevin Samuels after he passed away. You know what I mean? Are always judging and always making comments about other men or things other men are saying, but nobody's supposed to ever critique them. So it's like, what are you talking about? It's like I said, it's just certain people, they're mentally and spiritually unwell when the logic is insane and there is no logic, and it's like 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, and that's when there's other stuff going on there. If that makes sense.
Oh, most definitely. It's all fun and games till the rabbit gets the gun. That's when all of a sudden things are just getting too out of hand, and we kind of wheel it back a little bit. But it's just like, as content creators, we're here to keep the conversation going and add to the conversation. So it's just like, my personal belief is, with us having our platforms, it's important that we speak out against things that we disagree with, because as far as I'm concerned, silence is acceptance. Okay, when you're silent about something, you're accepting of it. You're okay with it happening. If I'm not going to say anything about it, then I let it rock. But if it is something that I do disagree with, especially something as disgusting as the talking points, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit, especially with something that dark, that demonic, have to use the platform to speak out against it, because I don't want nobody thinking I'm okay with this after I've been introduced to it. I need to make sure that I use my voice to detest the things that I find deplorable. It's just, that's how content creation kind of works,
Right, absolutely.
And if they have the platform to say what they want to say, we have the platform to say what we want to say. Okay,
that's right, that part.
But I do want to kind of delve into some of their talking points. And one of the ones that I think holds most of the trauma is, them saying that, oh, well, Black men, they're murdering us. They have this, I think it's called, like, what is it, femicide or
Black femicide. I broke that down. Yeah.
They they're trying to make it seem like Black men are just, they see a Black woman and they just get murder in their eyes. Like, they just have to attack us. They have to do these things. It's like, how often does that actually happen? And if you compare that to other communities, is it really a complete difference, or is it just proximity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I broke this down in my Femili, I call it Black Femili video.
I love your titles.
What'd you say?
I love your titles.
Oh, yeah. But a reason I call it Black Femili was because, now here's the thing about it. First, what I never want to do is I never want to downplay the untimely death of anybody. Man, woman, Black, whatever. Like, it's never fun to make fun or make jest of the untimely death of anybody. So that was not my point. But the reason I wanted to address that is because, it's changed. At one time it was every 6 hours, then it was every 5.5, and it became 5. So it's like the number is always changing. But essentially, that whole idea that, Black men are they're just bloodthirsty and want to go around deleting Black women just for the sake of it. Well, it's a lie. It's just downright a lie. And what they do is they take FBI crime stats, and then they just do bad math essentially to come to that conclusion. And I've addressed this before. FBI crime stats, first of all, they're arrests, they're not convictions. So we don't even know of all of those cases. It's like, until it's been adjudicated, it could have been a case where you find out, oh, actually the person, they weren't, homicide, they ended up, passing away of hypertension, or it ended up it was suicide. You know what I mean? So it's like, they're literally taking arrest, not even convictions, to come up with these numbers. They're not considering the fact that about, I think, 1/3 of cases are unsolved, 1/3 of the race is unknown. There's just all these variables, not to mention that even when cases are solved, then you got to look at the exoneration rate, which exoneration rate is overwhelmingly the majority for Black men. So there's all these variables that are not taken into consideration when they're using that stat. So that stat, at its core, it's just completely false. There's no way you can say that with all those unknown variables when it comes to how often a Black woman is being deleted by a Black man. On top of that, when you actually look at the different data, a lot of them will look at UGMA. They look at UGMA, which is like a popular, I guess it's a site for domestic violence. And there's nothing wrong with UGMA. I'm not saying they do anything wrong, but they usually you take that information from that site and they'll run with it, and they won't actually do the due diligence to look at the different studies and to look at the different information they provided. And all the different studies that UGMA even provided, if you look at, even you look at, different stats related to domestic violence, premature deaths, all those different things really comes down to, at the end of the day, is that the more in poverty, the more at risk any environment is, then the more you're going to see homicide. But as income goes up, as class increases, homicide pretty much largely dissipates. And then when you control for class, homicide the rate of homicide is the same across all races. So Black women who get out of poverty, Black women who end up going into middle income or getting into better, getting on their feet, their rate for homicide is essentially the same as like a white woman who's in like the same class. Am I making sense? So It's just really, at the end of the day, it's just all cap. It's all cap. You can't talk about homicide without first talking about class, without first talking about, access to income, to even healthcare, different comorbidities, all those variables. You cannot talk about homicide without taking those things into consideration. And also, another main issue I have with the whole Black femicide thing is that it doesn't include the men. Homicide disproportionately affects men. and this is why, even with the Say Her Name, people are getting so mad because they're just like, why are you always focusing on the men? It's because men are getting homicided more. They're getting deleted more. But so you can't make homicide, which disproportionately affects men, a female issue. At that point, it has to be an issue of the entire community, especially when men are affected that much more. So the whole conversation around it, when you really start to peel into it, it's just smokes in a mirror, the way I see it. And I think the biggest issue is that it doesn't get to the core of what's going on. Because again, if research is showing you as class increases, as economics get better, as people find themselves in more stable environments, homicide and crime in generally goes down, then the emphasis should be building stronger communities. It shouldn't be promoting hatred that's going to essentially tear communities apart and reinforce the issue. So that was my reason of really wanting to break it down.
I wish I had, like, how they have little soundboards and stuff. Like, I wish I had a really good soundboard, because you broke that all the way down. I'm over here taking notes. But it's true. And that's why I say these are the same exact talking points that the alt-right uses against Black people. Oh, look at all the Black on Black crime. It's like, no, look at the wealth gap inequality. Look at the school systems. Look at the neighborhood. Look at all these different things that contribute to these negative behaviors. I don't think people in general just go crazy and start murdering each other. There are things that have to be completely dysfunctional within the community, within the the living environment, things like that, for those behaviors to actually take root, especially at the level that it does. So it's a wealth thing. It's not a Black men thing, because I would love for them to point out the gene in Blackness that is causing the murders. Please point out the gene. I want the scientific, what part of this DNA strand, okay, that is in Blackness that you're saying is contributing to the fact that, because if you're going to make that argument that it's Black men, you have to be able to prove that it has something to do with their Blackness and not anything else.
Right. And like I said, they can't do that, because again, you look at poor white people in rural environments, you're going to have a pretty similar homicide rate if you looked at poor Black people in a rural environment. Like I said, it's largely people who are under economic pressure and stress. They don't have access to good healthcare. They don't have access to good food. Maybe the air quality is bad. All of those different factors create stress. And so, of course, when people are under stress, we're trying to deal with bills, things like that, then it's more likely for volatile things to happen. So it's like, and that's across the board. Obviously, it can't be a genetic thing, because if that was the case, why don't you really hear of, Black women who are living in middle income environments, or working at different white collar jobs, whatever, you don't really hear them of going missing. They're not really the ones who are in the headlines of say her name. It's usually women who are in lower income environments. It's usually black young girls in poverty in particular are the ones who are at the most risk. Those are really the ones that we should be focusing on. But you're a 40-year-old woman working at a good job at a corporate, living in a pretty safe environment, like you're going to be okay. Most cases. So
your odds are good.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to take a moment to read some of the super chats. But 18th letter, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. It says, shout out to the most sound-minded sisters on YouTube. Thank y'all for doing what you do. Thank you. Thank you so much, 18th letter. And then Dustin, he says, great stream, enjoying the conversation. And I'm enjoying the conversation too. And if y'all are liking the video, like the video, share it. This is a very important thing to talk about because there are so many young people online, young Black women online, and they're being introduced to these talking points. And it's like, if they don't have the experience to kind of combat this, if they don't have the knowledge to kind of dissect what is said and come to their own conclusion, they could fall victim to these ideologies and start pushing them themselves, even if they haven't had those experiences in their own lives. Right. And so that's why I think this conversation is very important, because there needs to be a counter to this on there, so that if these young women are going down this path, they at least get both sides of the conversation.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad we're having this conversation. That's kind of been the point of me addressing it, and I will continue to address it if it continues to be as crazy as it is, because it's like, at the end of the day, women should have a choice. So if a person decides to go down this road, okay, but they at least now, to your point, have an understanding of what they're really getting into, and they're not getting tantalized by the little cute terms that they use at first to try to lure those women in. So,
and one of the things that I find very interesting, when we talked about like the murder and how it's really based on economics, another one of their talking points is about how Black men are just so dusty. They love calling Black men dusties. And that's like one of the things that they love to pin on Black men, as far as, oh, well, this is why we're in such an impoverished situation, because Black men didn't step up to the plate, and they didn't handle house and home, and they didn't have enough money for this. And, it's just a lot of blame going straight to the Black man. And they love that word dusty. Absolutely love that word dusty. Have you had any conversations with these women about their feelings of Black men being dusty, and somehow all these other races of men aren't dusty?
Directly, I think I told you I had 2 divestors that I spoke to on my platform directly. One who I had an interview with, who I honestly don't know that she was a legitimate divestor. I think she's more just trying to ride a trend. And there are those out there. There are women out there who I think don't really believe in the ideology. They're just trying to make some money. So they kind of cherry pick different ideas and just use different cliche terms, hoping to actually get women. So I spoke to her about it. She never really gave me a clear answer. It just was kind of like, it was just, we were running in circles. I talked to another one. She very much was promoting neo-Nazi talking points. And when I started to pressure on some different things and bring up different situations that would challenge her point, then she just kind of got flustered and got off. So, like I said, when you're in an echo chamber and everybody agrees and there's no pushback, then you can say whatever you want. And that's a lot of times what you hear is just women who are upset that they didn't get child support, or maybe the man that they fell in love with cheated on them, or didn't want to marry them, or they felt like they got, they feel like they're not pretty enough. They believe they're never going to get married, and it makes them upset. I mean, quite honestly, I think that there's a lot of these divestors just envy white women. They want to be Miss Anne. They have Miss Anne syndrome. They want to be in the middle class, upper middle class situation where they can be at home and bake cookies and have their husband go and come home and take care of the bills, and they don't have to worry about the stress. That's what they want. And a lot of them know they're never going to get it, and it pisses them off. And it makes them even more upset when they see white women who was their competitor, right? White women, taking the men that they want, which is Brad. And then also when some of those white women go and take the high value black men. So I think it's like a two-edged sword for them. So I think that's why, the whole Dusty thing to me really speaks to somewhat of a disdain, I think, for the fact that not only have they had a bad experiences, there's also this deep understanding that the men that you allege to want or really deeply do want, you can't get. And it just makes you pissed off.
Well,
So
that's facts. That's absolute facts. But it's like, you know, when do you look inward and try to fix yourself up to get what it is you actually want? I do believe that it is within our reach to be able to work towards our goals and to better ourselves
yeah.
to achieve what we want. But it's like if you're stuck in a state of mind where it's just anger against a group of people, as opposed to looking at yourself, be like, hey, maybe my picker is off. Okay, maybe what I'm looking for is completely off, and that's why I ended up in certain situations that were unfavorable. What can I do to make sure that I'm not choosing those type of men that would do me wrong? What can I
Right.
do to make sure that I'm, that the type of man that I want would even want me? It's like everyone has their preferences, and if you're trying to go for a specific type of man, you wouldn't you question what it is that that type of man even wants, and then within your ability be what that is. Or it's just it's very interesting to me, this hyper fixation on just talking about how black men aren't this and aren't that, as opposed to really just focusing on that self-improvement part. If it
Right.
was really a
Yeah.
movement about black women self-improving, I don't think any of us would really have an issue with that, because we want each other to succeed.
We
But
would. Yes, we would. And that, that's why I call Cap a lot of the time, because I'm just like, at the end of the day, also a lot of women, they're just bitter. Misery loves company. So if you're at a place in your life where you are not willing to look in the mirror because that's too painful, um, you need somebody to blame for your misery. And so some women are just at that space in their life, and you can't convince them. There's no amount of logic, there's no amount of preaching, teaching, convincing that can get that person to decide and want to do better. They themselves have to hit rock bottom, whatever that looks like for them. They have to come to their own conclusion that says, I'm tired of being miserable. Until then, they got to go through their own process. So I'm not necessarily trying to convince divestors to not divest per se, because like I said, those who are hell bent and literally hell bent and with that hatred, like I said, they have to come to their own conclusion. But it's more like the record needs to be set, and there needs to be an honest assessment of what's actually going on, so that for those women who maybe are on the fence, or they're confused and just looking for a place to belong, or they're trying to make sense of their feelings, or just trying to make their way in life, they at least have a record to have a solid understanding of what this is truly about. So
exactly, you have to provide, like, at least both sides of the argument, or else all you'll believe is the one thing you're seeing. If that's all you're seeing is black men are murdering us, or black men, they're dusty, or another one, and this one this one's been going way back since Oprah, the idea that black men are down low. I don't know if you've heard this one, but
oh yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it.
and the first time I heard of this was on Oprah. She had a whole special about it, saying that a lot of black men are down low
I
and
remember. I
into that
remember that.
narrative.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
the one? Is that one where that dude came? He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was a black guy who came on, and he was literally like, "I sleep with men, but I'm not gay."
Yeah, it was one of those.
I remember that one, or unless she had a couple, but the one I remember was that he was like, "Yeah, I like sleeping with men, but I'm not a gay guy," and it just, and then the whole download. Yeah. So yes, that's been going around for a very long time, and surprise, surprise, I also covered this off a few weeks ago, where when you actually look at what's going on among Gen Z in particular, younger generations, they are more more queer, for lack of a better term, and black women in particular are the most queer. They lead in bisexuality more than any other demographic. Women lead, and then black women in particular lead the most. So, and it says, in one of the reports that I covered off, it says, I think black women have like a percentage that's like 4 times higher than any group of men. Any group of men. Not just white men, Asians, like all men. Black women, as far as the rate of which they are, I guess, growing as far as the bisexuality.
Oh, your mic is off.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no,
I don't know what you heard, but yeah, make a long story short, black women are more queer based upon the evidence. So it's so interesting that is applied, generally misapplied to like, you know, black men in particular, when the evidence is actually speaking to something totally different, way different, and nobody wants to talk about that.
That's so and it's crazy because, you know, that's something we see in the media, you know, this over representation of homosexuality within the Black community, and specifically for Black men, you know, and I've been seeing this for the past like decade, I want to say, is when it really started getting really heavy in the media, and it's an over representation of the community. And so, like I said, you keep getting this propaganda. You know, you got the propaganda with the Oprahs when you were a little kid watching that. And then you got the propaganda again watching these TV shows. And most of the time, if there's a gay character, they have to have like a Black male gay character. Very effeminate and things like that. And it's just like you're constantly seeing that propaganda. So, you know, if you're not really looking at the world around you, and you're just looking at like the media and, you know, YouTubes and things like that, you're not really looking around you and taking note of what's actually in reality, then you're going to think that most of our men are homosexual. And it's not true. It could be furthest from the truth. And I'm even in Atlanta. Okay. I'm in Atlanta right now.
Oh, that's, you know, I want to be honest real quick.
But it's not as like, it's over representation is what it is.
So I got to be honest, for the longest I was thinking about, because I remember that came out, I don't know if it came out then, but like I remember around the time I was going to college is when I started, I think, to really hear that message being resurfaced a lot. And I was highly considering going to Spelman because I had two of my aunties went to Spelman. And I remember when I was like really kind of getting introduced to that whole down low idea and was hearing it's like, oh, it's bad out there in the ATL because just, you know, the culture. I was like, nah, I can't go to college out there. Like I was so scared. I was like, I can't do it. So, and of course, yeah, you are in certain pockets. Like I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so you find literally everything out here. You do, as far as so, you know, this area is very, very, very pro LGBTQ. So you see stuff all the time. You'll see all kinds of couples, all variations of couples. But don't get it twisted. You still run into racism. As liberal as it is out here, racism is still alive and well. So just because we're in the Bay Area where you see all kind of, you know, different sexual orientations, binary, non-binary, all kinds of expressions, don't mean people still in the day aren't anti-Black. We still see that. So
you see, and it's crazy because, you know, sometimes you'll even see it like within that, the LGBTQ.
Oh, absolutely.
The anti-Blackness all up in that.
Yeah, and not to get too much off of a tangent, but you had a lot of gay slave masters. So this is not like surprising. Just because somebody is, you know, alternative sexuality doesn't mean they still don't have a white supremacist ideology. Can still happen.
Oh yeah. And yeah, like you said, I don't want to get too off topic, but
right, I don't want to. Yeah, it's a whole other conversation.
Like a lot of people liberal and things like that. A lot of liberals very anti-Black. And you would think that they aren't because of the message of love and things like that. But it just goes to show, like we said with the divestors, that face doesn't always match what's behind the face of the movement. You know, sometimes it's very dark when you go deep into it. And, you know, one of the darkest points that they bring up is, you know, when we go back to the divestment, when we go back to the topic, is this idea that we should abort our sons. I remember the first time I heard that, I felt sick to my stomach. You
Yeah,
know, I felt absolutely sick to my stomach because I was like, how could you even come to that solution? Like, why would that even seem to be a solution in any capacity? Because it's like that's a baby, that's an innocent,
right.
and you're saying to abort purely off the fact that they're male and also black. It's just I'm confusion. I don't
Right.
understand how you could come to that, you know?
Well, to be fair, from at least from my understanding, that that idea was really popularized by Cynthia G, who does not allege to be a divester, but she's divester adjacent. And this is where it kind of gets complicated because for the pure hardcore divestors, they want nothing to do with black women in ever. Like they don't even like to sleep with them. And this is where you started to see somewhat of a shift between those who are like, we want nothing to do with black men, all they talk about black men all day. And then you have those who usually use the same talking points, but they're open to sleeping with black men or dating black men. So Cynthia G is in that category of, she talks about black men all the time and pretty much promotes the same ideology, but she sleeps with them. And they would call her, quote unquote, a dick fester. Like I said, the divestors are the ones who are like, we don't even want to sleep with you. So depending upon who you talk to, some would say, okay, that idea didn't necessarily originate from like the divestors, originated from more of like a dick fester, but they're kind of like two sides of the same coin at the end of the day.
That's a new one for me. I hadn't heard that term before.
I mean, it's more, I think it was Lexus Exodus and Divested Zealot are the two that I heard kind of say that. I don't know if it's like popularized, but I'm saying even within the divester movement, you start to see beef between black women who are still open to sleeping with black men. That's been a main point of contention. So that's why you've had people, like I said, the Real Talk with Yannis of the world and different women who may have kind of used similar ideology at some point, but they've distanced themselves and say, I'm not a divester because they sleep with black men or they are open to dating black men. And so there's been that distance of those who are like really hardcore, like, no, we want like everything bad is black men, versus those who are just like, they use those talking points, but they'll still at the end of the day date a black man if they feel like he's good. Does that make sense? So there's a little bit more nuance there.
Yeah. And see, I wasn't aware of those kind of nuances. I thought that, it was more of a situation where the divestors would sleep with black men on the low, on the low, but then, go out there and push those negative talking points. You know what I mean?
Well, and yeah. Well, and from what I understand, again, I don't pretend to be expert on this. This is just what I've noticed, right, over the last really few months. What I understand is that definitely was happening, right? That there were divestors who were saying this stuff, but behind closed doors or sleeping with them or whatever. But I think some of those who have been doxxed or been found out, or they may have said something where they were congratulating a movie star or somebody who ended up with a black man and she was black, then they started getting called out. And they're like, well, wait, why are you basically saying that you're pro-black woman? You're using some of these points, but you're still with the black man, you're promoting this. So there started to be somewhat of a separation. So you'll notice within that camp, within like the black female empowerment or that kind of whole femininity space, you'll see different content creators who they don't really mess with each other because there's a nuance of just like, hey, I'm at the end of the day, I'm still open to sleeping with black men, but I'm going to talk about them all the time. I'm going to use these. I'm going to, say that they're trash and they're dusties, but I still want to sleep with them. And other women who are just like, no, like we want a full divestment. We want nothing to do with them. We don't even want to sleep with them.
That's very interesting. So, and see, I guess I had a little bit of misinformation because when I heard them say, abort black sons, I was thinking that they were taking that one drop rule and applying it and saying, hey, even if you get your white daddy, if you're, having a child with them and there happen to be a son, to abort because it's still, that's still calculating them as a black child. See, that was the understanding that I had. And that's why I thought that, that was one of the major like talking points for the divestors, is because even if you get your white zaddy and you have a son, don't have the son. Like that's the understanding that I had when I first heard that message.
So okay, no, fair point. So yeah, no, it kind of it the message kind of took on its own thing, but from at least the way it was introduced to me, I don't know if it was said previously to that. It's very possible, but the way it was introduced to me and kind of became viral again is when Cynthia G specifically was advocating for the abortion of Black males, and it was under the premise of, look, these guys grow up to be basically illegitimate, men anyways. They delete us. They don't pay child support. They're violent. So instead of just knowing that they're going to go and basically wreak havoc, we should just stop it from the inception. So if you are pregnant and you know you're going to have a boy, you should get rid of it. So she was talking. She was talking about that, as far as like, it was in reference to that, and it was in reference to women who are sleeping with Black men. Because again, Cynthia G, she's openly said she's still sleeping with Black men. So, yeah.
Man, when I first heard that entire notion, I was just absolutely disgusted by that. Because, I want to be a mother. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be a mother one day. Mm-hmm. And it's just sad to think that a woman could have a baby in their womb, and the only reason they would choose to abort is because it's a little boy. Like, that's absolutely disgusting to me. I mean, my sister, she just had a son, and he is literally the cutest little baby ever. And I can't imagine my sister coming up to me while she was pregnant or anything like that and saying, look, it's a boy, got an ixnay on the baby. Like, I could not imagine hearing someone actually say that in real life and following through with it. It just seems very like anti like woman, anti nurturer, anti like all the things that we are as women.
Well, yeah, you're right, and a lot of it, I think, at the end of the day, is some of it is just people trying to make money. I think, and trying to just appeal to their audience. But the thing about it, as horrible as that idea sounds, there's also an aspect of me that was just like, you know what? Do we really want these kind of women raising Black sons anyways? No. No. Do I believe in abortion? No. But because I think one ideology too is just like, well, just don't sleep with them. Which I'm like, you know what? Yes, I think everybody would be happy. Don't mess with them. They don't mess with you. No kids are born. Yes, this is a win-win. So that's what I'm like. Divestors, yes, don't even get pregnant. Don't do it. I would support you on that endeavor.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And I do agree with your point. Like, would you want them to even have access to these little boys? Because what kind of trauma could they instill in that child?
Exactly.
With all their own trauma that they will be putting on that little boy. And it's very tough. It's a very tough conversation to even have, because it's like you want the babies to live, but then you also think about what kind of life would that be if they had a mom that just hated them purely off the fact that they were a man, a Black man, well, a Black boy that's going to grow up to be a Black man. But
I wonder if those are the men who grow up to, not mess with Black women, maybe choose to not mess with women, period. You just got to wonder, if you grow up in an experience and your mom's always telling you ain't nothing like your daddy, or you're this and this and that, how that impacts the psychology and the confidence of that little boy when they grow up to be a man,
That's very true. Mm-hmm. Let me take a moment to read some of the super chats. Again, thank y'all so much. Like, I truly appreciate any and all support. It means a lot to me. Like, thank you so much, West End KC. And that's a huge super chat. I really appreciate. I know y'all be working hard for your money. I appreciate it so much. Said I ain't even got nothing to say. I'm just sending money because I love you and my baby Shay Sade. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Let's see. And Marco Polo. Peace, beloved. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then the homie Game Dreamer sending a super sticker. Uh, it's a little yellow guy dancing. You can't see it on the stream, but it's a yellow guy dancing. It's really, really funny. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation. Really appreciate it. And you just have a wealth of knowledge, and you have the stats to back it up. And like I said, we can't be silent on issues like that because our silence is perceived as acceptance. I ain't accepting this shit. I'm not accepting this anti-Black male agenda because we already got enough of it coming from the alt-right. We don't need it coming from people who look like you and me.
No, you don't. It's probably very confusing too. I feel it's like I try to caution people to be like, we don't want to use social media as the metric for how everybody is acting or how everybody believes, because that can be really depressing, quite honestly. And I just choose to believe that there's not, like, divestors do not represent the majority of Black women. Like, they obviously do not. But I think one of the reasons so many men are disappointed is because they don't really hear there being what seems to be as much of a big enough pushback for this kind of rhetoric. So, hopefully we have these kinds of conversations, more women get ear of it, and they'll start to stand up and say, hey, we don't stand for this. This does not represent the collective of Black women. This is not us, because there's a lot of women who are looking at this being unchecked, and they're just like, SYSPN. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm gonna just go way over there because these women don't, in our community, don't even love us. So, and I don't want that message to be promoted when I don't think that that's reflective of all Black women, of all of us. So,
exactly. And like I said, thank you for using your platform to really push the facts, to really push that other side, because it's definitely needed. And as more young Black women are going on the internet and having more access to these things, it's just important that they get both sides of the conversation. And that leads me to the last thing I really kind of want to bring up is, what else can we do to combat this hate group? Like, what else is there that we can do that's tangible to really keep this message from taking a deeper root within our community, because it's very destructive.
That's a really great question. I think there's a lot of different ways, I think, to address this, but I would say one is, at the end of the day, these women are deeply traumatized, deeply unwell, mentally ill, spiritually ill at all levels. And they're women who have had very traumatizing experiences with men. Most of them, or many of them, I think, the leaders. And a woman such as, yourself, myself, different women I know that have good relationships with Black men, whether it's their dad, their husband, their cousins, their brother, like, they have good, healthy relationships with Black men. This kind of rhetoric isn't going to really be able to stick, because they're going to have the experience in their life to know, no way Black men are just trash, or they're just dusty, they don't protect me, because my brother protected me there. Or, I have one of my good friends, she said to me a few days ago, like, my dad's my emotional support. She's in her 40s, and she loves her dad. That's like her best friend. And so it's like, women who really do have good relationships with men in their life, and they've been taught how to get along with men, things like that, this kind of stuff ain't gonna fly, because it just is not reflective of their experience. And so I think there's something powerful about really, really strengthening that family unit and having an understanding of how important that is. One of the things that I want to start doing is I'm going to be rolling out a How to Be a Wife series on my channel, where I'm going to bring on different women who will basically be able to share the wisdom, the knowledge that they've gained over the years of being a wife, because I recognize that so many of us don't even know what we're doing. And I see a lot of people leading in the relationship space that have maybe been dating a couple of months, or don't have any like, they don't quite frankly don't have any experience, or don't even really have, like, what you would call, like, they're not married, they don't have a track record of success in relationships. So these are the ones who are leading the conversation. So I thought, look, instead of us listening to cute YouTubers who can put on some makeup and say, oh, follow me, I'm going to give you relationships tips, and they've been dating for 2 months, we probably need to be looking at maybe grandmothers or aunts or people who have been married for a long time, who have weathered the storm of different marriages, raised kids, raised grandkids, or are raising kids, and can actually have some practical knowledge to talk about that. So that's something that I want to do, because I know there's a lot of different areas that need to be addressed, but I think one of the most basic, like easy things to talk about is just we need to get back to learning how to get along with men. And a lot of women in the Black community don't even know how to do that. So that's something that I'm hoping to doing, or hoping to at least offer, as just like at the very least as a conversation and as a wealth of knowledge, because it's out there. I just don't think it's being put out there as much. So hope that answers your question.
I agree, and another thing that could help is just like for us to learn how to pick better mates.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if you're picking the wrong type of Black man and you're ending up with these terrible situations, it's like, maybe we need to rethink what it is that we're using to qualify the men that we're dating.
Mhm.
Our standards, and having realistic standards and looking for the qualities that are actually going to lead to healthy relationship, healthy marriage, someone that's going to really stick by you. And so I think that, your point of how to be in a relationship, but even further, like how to choose,
How to choose. That should be part of it.
that. They hate when you say, oh, choose better. They hate when you say, choose better. But essentially, that's what it is. If I go to the grocery store and I pick up the rotten apple, and then I get home and I'm mad that it's rotten when I go to eat it, I picked a rotten apple. I needed to have examined that apple before I put it in my bag and
Exactly.
before I put it in my car to go home. I can't be mad at what I chose, So it's just like our sisters need to learn how to choose better, and then also how to be better in the relationship. Because
Yeah.
from my experience, I want to be my best self for the person that I'm with, and I know that person wants to be their best self for me. But if we're coming to the table with a lot of trauma, a lot of baggage and anger, then that relationship is on shaky foundation in the first place.
Yep, that's true.
It's just continue to cycle. It's a trauma cycle is what it is. And it gets passed down through generations and generations. And it's very unfortunate to see. But I think, like you said, like your series, I'm gonna tune into that series because I'm gonna
I haven't looked yet. Yeah, I was literally like, after this, going to go and like schedule the post. So that's, I'm planning on starting this August. So this is kind of like fresh. You're like, I guess you're getting the sneak peek here. But yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm excited too, because I'm going to be talking to different women of different ages, but I definitely have some who can offer sage advice. Have been married 30, 40 years, have kids my age, grandkids. So I think you need all that, So
nice. Absolutely. Yeah. And y'all, I am going to drop the link. So if anyone wants to come up and, share their piece. I did want to address one message that I kind of read over here. It's completely off topic, but West End KC, look, I'm new to this whole super chat game. Okay. Me being monetized is completely new. And streaming in general is also very new to me as well. And so I do apologize. It's not my intention to just like let a super chat just sit there, but it's like at the same time I'm trying to keep the conversation going, but also look for a beat to, address the super chats and give them that shine. And for me, I thought that having it on the screen while I'm still trying to get the conversation going and find a beat is, showing that gratitude so that your message is seen, and I don't ever want people to feel bad about, donating to me or anything like that, because I do truly appreciate it. I understand. We work hard for our money. And for anyone to feel, so empowered to want to donate to me, that means a lot. It really does, because that's your money. You worked hard for it. And I just want people to kind of understand, look, I'm new to this. I'm still learning how to manage everything and put the pieces together. So it was never my intention to be weird or mean or a bean. It's not at all. I'm literally still trying to figure this stuff out. So I do apologize if you felt some type of way about it. It's not like I said, it's not my intention to be rude in any way, shape, or form. So I just want to address that because I saw the message. I was like, what? I was so confused. But I did want to kind of address that really quickly. But yeah, what's up, 18th letter?
Hey, shout out to you, Sandra. Thank you for allowing me on your platform. Shout out to Miss Shed Sade.
Hey.
I just wanted to come in and show my appreciation to you two ladies. I really appreciate you all having this stream and being able to, speak about, these divestors and, expose the, twisted mentality that a lot of these women have. I had the pleasure on being on Shay's channel for her live yesterday.
Mhm.
And I just appreciate her research and appreciate everything that she's done. And you women, two of you women are some of the most genuine black women that's on this platform right now as we speak. And I just really appreciate you guys and appreciate you guys showing that, you do value black men and you do value black people as a whole for us to be able to have a strong community and to be able to for us to move forward. Because right now it's just been so much rhetoric and so much propaganda out there that's been spewed against black men, and I don't think we've had a lot of pushback besides you speaking on this, Sandra, besides Miss Shay and women like Danica Marie and Six the Goddess and Chantel Simone and women of that nature. And this, in my personal opinion, this has just got to stop. This has got to stop. This has gotten out of control with what we've been seeing on YouTube. The fact that a lot of these women have been able to profit off of this without much pushback, without any type of cancelization, I just find it astonishing.
It is. It's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy that they're able to spew so much hate. Because, like Shay said, if it was a man saying those same things about black women,
Hmm.
they should be gone.
Absolutely. And it should be gone. It should be gone. It shouldn't be acceptable no matter who's doing it. So
Exactly. Absolutely. But thank you so much, 18th letter.
Thank you for allowing me on, Sandra. And like I said on Shay's live stream yesterday, if it was up to me, I these women would be on public record. I mean, I would make sure that their professional lives, like people know the type of mentality that they have. Because if this was any other group, people would not tolerate this. If this was somebody speaking negatively against, Hebrew people, or if speaking negatively against Asian people, this will not be tolerated. And I think it needs to definitely be more pushback because this type of mentality can fester. It only took Hitler uh, a few years to be able to, get the following that he needed to be able to overthrow Germany and, to create the Nazism to take over half of Europe. So people need to be very aware that, mentalities that we think are not a threat can end up possibly being a threat in the future. Because a lot of these women are never going to admit their faults because they're too invested in it. And it even becomes worse when you're economically invested in it. Like I was saying once before, even women that don't believe this, they got too much financially wrapped into it to ever switch their stance, unless it was a situation where they felt that, their livelihood was threatened. Because that's what we're seeing right now, what Miss Shay had covered earlier. We're seeing a lot of women that, whether they believe it or not, they're pushing that message forward. And then the funny thing is, if this blows over in the future, then those women can just pretend that they didn't know where this was leading to. Oh, I didn't know it was going to go. I didn't pay any attention. And a lot of these women are faceless. A lot of these women don't
right.
have their identity out there. So they're sitting here blending amongst black people and black men, eating fried chicken and soul food. And you would never know the things that they were spewing online. And you were like, man, I wonder how Shonda got all of that money. That she been, to get that new car. Well, she got it from her YouTube channel spewing divestment rhetoric that you never knew about. So like, it's crazy out here. It's crazy out here, man. And once again, I just wanted to say I appreciate you, ladies, and thank you for allowing me up. I just also wanted to say, Sandra, I had an idea. I watched your gaming live streams, and would you ever think about doing like a retro gaming show, like playing an old Super Mario World or like anything like that?
I don't know about Super Mario. I hated that game growing up, but I would definitely play some Donkey Kong. I might play the old school Mario Kart. That was fun. But yeah, I definitely could do it, and they have it on the Switch. So I definitely do a retro. I did do a little bit of retro though. I did
Okay,
the Street Fighter, the old school Street Fighters.
that is
So
great. That
I could
is
definitely
great.
do a retro night and just play a bunch of retro games. But thank
Yeah.
you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, and you're always very supportive.
Thank you guys once again, and shout out to Miss Shay Sade. I'm gonna continue. I just wanted to say one thing before I left because, like me, like my personal thoughts is that, like when it comes to women like these divestors and everything, we have to acknowledge what Miss Shay had said on previous live streams. These are a hate group, and this can be viewed as opposition to the black community as well. No different than the alt right, no different than anybody spewing anti-black rhetoric. Me personally, I don't have any love for these women. I don't have love for women that don't have love for my existence. Women like you all, such as Sandra and Miss Shay, and countless black women that show your support. I will support and defend you all every day, no question about it. But those type of women, of course, you're not going to get support or protection from men because you want us to be deleted. So on God's green earth will we even think that way? So that's all I have to say. And thanks once again for allowing me up, Sandra.
Thank you for coming on. And I want to be respectful of Miss Sade's time. Um, thank you for having this conversation. I really, really appreciate it. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
So you
anytime.
want to take a moment to just plug all your things? Just plug all your things.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Oh, I was gonna say if you want to take a moment to plug all your social medias and
Oh, okay.
sorry, my way of speaking is a little
No, it's
got-
okay. It's okay. Well, again, thank you for having me on. Obviously, you can check out YouTube if you haven't already. I have plenty of more divestor-related content there if you want to learn more about what it's about. Check me out there. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. Check me out.
Nice. Again, thank you so much, sis. I really do appreciate it. And I hope we can collab moving forward. I really
Definitely.
enjoy having these conversations.
Yeah,
But thank you so much, sis.
absolutely. Well, you have a good one. Talk soon.
You too. Definitely. You too. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. All right, y'all. That was a really good stream. Let me scroll back up. Thank you, Mr. Bobby Wright. You so silly. You always come through with the silly. I figured you would have said something about Pluto, but you said here's $2 dusty. Sorry for the dust. You stop playing on my stream. I really do appreciate it. I really do. Like I said, everybody work hard for their money. And I appreciate any and all people that donate to the channel. I truly do appreciate it. One point that I did want to bring up that Mr. 18th letter had brought up, these people that get on here, they have a faceless thing. And I want you to keep in mind, these people might be your doctors, or they could be your school teachers. You never know who has these ideas up here and maybe acting those things out in the real world. Like, you just never know. So it's very important that we push this counter message, a message of love, a message of understanding, and a message of community. Okay, that's the biggest thing, is, pushing that message of us being for each other and helping each other grow and achieve that financial freedom that's going to take us out of those situations where we end up in, undesirable, like, the low income neighborhoods and things of that nature. If we're able to take ourselves out of that situation by coming together, working hard, doing what we have to do, then a lot of these issues that we struggle with in our communities, they will cease to exist. So there will be so little that it's just like, you can't really paint us with that brush anymore. You wouldn't be able to use that propaganda anymore. That's more of a wealth conversation. That's more of economics. Okay. But thank y'all so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm not gonna address the hatefulness that is clearly in the chat. I'm not gonna address it. My message is of love, and I hope that this person, whoever they may be, okay, because like we said, they're faceless, whoever they may be, or maybe that is a face, I don't know. Hopefully they get some healing. Hopefully they look inward and get some therapy, And I hope that those people who have that negative, hateful energy within them, I hope they get that healing that they need and truly learn to grow. All right. So thank y'all so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. And I was going to do a little gaming stream after this, but y'all, I'm sorry. I am tired, but maybe I'll do a gaming stream tomorrow. But thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all with the next one. If you like this content, you already know what to do. Like the video, share the video, leave a comment, and definitely subscribe. Your girl now has memberships, so if you want to support the channel even further, go ahead and click that join button. In the description box will be a link to the trailer for The Vision, as well as a link to the Patreon so that you can get early access to The Vision. Also in the description box will be my sneaky links. Okay, we have Discord, we have Instagram, and we have Twitter. So go ahead and check me out on all of those platforms. But thank you so much, and I will see you either with the next live stream or the next video. Bye!